Hello and welcome to the Richard Donaldson Show. And before we bring on this week's special guest, what a week we have had in these ever increasingly worrying and quite frankly confusing times. Now, I'd love to be able to talk about all of it, but we would genuinely be here all year, wouldn't we? The podcast would never end. So let's just pick a few stories. Well, first off, President Trump has absolutely hammered Starmer after the Peter Mandelson revelations, and the fact that Starmer has repeatedly lied about the vetting or lack of vetting, or was there vetting? Who actually knows? All we do know is that multiple Labour MPs and now the President of America are turning on Starmer. Take a look.
Not just MPs saying Keir Starmer to go. Donald Trump has now waded in these past few minutes. Donald Trump is saying the Prime Minister now has no chance. Breaking news here, Donald Trump has waded in a telephone call, we believe, with the BBC. He's now said the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, who previously is compared to not to Neville Chamberlain, not to Churchill. Now Donald Trump has upped the war of words, saying Keir Starmer has to go. The Prime Minister has no...
Now, the question I have to ask is, who replaces him? If he does stand down, which I don't think he will, he's a complete narcissist, he's not going to hand it over willingly, who takes the reins? I feel like Starmer has been incredibly clever in constructing a cabinet essentially full of incompetent people, because if there did so happen to be a good choice, if people could see a new clear leader, I think Starmer would already be gone. But it's not just Mandelson Gate that Starmer is having to fight off this week, because today the trial also starts for the 3 male Ukrainian rent boys. Do you remember those? They were all over the news, and then they vanished. They were gone. Well, some of us haven't forgotten. Now, these rent boys slash models who just so happen to know Starmer's addresses and his personal cars that he has, private use of, well, they tracked him down. They knew where he lived, obviously, and then they attacked his addresses and those cars with firebombs. And I have to wonder, is Mandelson a massive distraction? I mean, of course, it's terrible, but is it being used to distract us from the court case, which starts today? And no one is talking about it. Now, Keir Starmer has actually cancelled all PMQs this week, and the media are dead silent on that as well. And the fact that these 3 male models, rent boys, are now up in court to testify and give their side of the story. On top of this, Starmer is coming under further fire because, while he's happy to celebrate St. Patrick's Day and St. David's Day with glee, he had this to say on St. George's Day just last week. Take a look.
If here and abroad, who would seek to divide us, who want to set us apart from each other, who want to pretend that in this country what we really do is to distinguish between people, to find the points of difference, to have the sort of toxic culture of hatred between different individuals, different groups, different communities. We will not let them do this. We reject their division completely, and we will fly our flag proudly. It's our flag. It belongs to us, and we will fly it for the values that we believe in.
He just couldn't do it, could he? He just couldn't give a nice speech, say the word England at least once, just once. That's all we ask. But he couldn't do it. He couldn't wish us a happy St. George's Day and piss off. He had to give some bullshit speech to skirt around it, didn't he? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And lastly, the Green Party leader, Zach Polanski. He had this to say.
There are people, though, who would identify as right-wing or indeed even far-right. And no matter what humanity or community we put them in, they are set on destroying or pushing this toxicity. Do we think we can change their minds? Or is it a case of building a society that doesn't include them?
Can you say that again? Just the way you said it.
Or is it a case of building a society that doesn't include them? Building a society that doesn't include them.
Now, I'm sorry, but how many times are those on the supposed right accused of being Nazis? How often are we called fascists? How often are we compared to the likes of Hitler, for example? And we are accused of such things by those who would actually be stupid enough to turn up and vote for the Greens, despite the fact that Zach has just said that if we don't agree with him and his ideas, then a society will be built without us. And here's the worrying thing. Zach and the Greens are essentially pushing hardline socialism. The problem is that socialism throughout history has often resulted in genocide. If you don't believe me, go and fact check this. Almost all examples of socialism throughout history has resulted in either mass killings or a complete genocide of the people who oppose the socialist regime that comes into power. Seriously, go and fact check it. You don't have to believe me. You can look into the Soviet Union where 65 million people were slaughtered. You can look into Cambodia in the 1970s. 2 million people were killed. China under Mao between 1949 and 1976, up to 60 million people were purged. Even present-day China under a communist state between 2017 and right now, around 2 million people have been killed or sent to so-called re-education camps and have never been seen again. It's happening right now. Not only does communism not work, it is responsible for the deaths of hundreds of millions of people in the past 100 years alone. And here is Zach Polanski pushing communism and talking about creating a society without those of us who simply love our country and wish to return to traditional values. We want our children to be safe. We want robust borders. It is insane. The whole system is corrupt. And today I am joined by a lady who has been inside that system and gave it up to speak the truth. This lady worked in PR. Her dad was a huge name in the record industry, and she is even the goddaughter of George Michael. And in her own words, chilling out on Branson's Island, relaxing with Ringo Starr, Elton John, and even mixing with the likes of Mariah Carey was just normal to her growing up. She saw the entire system for what it was, and she is joining us today to tell us all about it. So please welcome Lauren the Insider. Lauren the Insider, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me. I love following your stuff on X. And when you DM'd me, I was like, this is cool because I do follow loads of what you're saying. And I am always absolutely thrilled to talk to other truth tellers and truth seekers.
Well, I message you, but I don't usually do that. Like we've spoken privately, haven't we, on text messages and stuff, where I hate messaging people to say, oh, would you come on my show or anything like that. But I think you've kind of got this energy about you where I just thought, I think Lauren would probably be up for it. Yeah. So yeah, I did. And I've been fangirling for the past like 20 minutes while I've been setting this up. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Before we really get into it, I want to mention this briefly because I think it lets people know that when you say things, it comes from a place of knowledge and experience. You're not just gobbing off. But what I don't want to do is focus on it too much because you are your own person with your own skills and talent. So I want to make that clear. With that said, you're George Michael's goddaughter, aren't you?
I am.
You are.
I got trolled for that recently. Someone said, oh, she's only known because she's the goddaughter of a pop star. I thought, I'm outraged. He was a superstar, not just a pop star. But I was born into the industry. So I was born into the media industry. My father was a very, very high profile PR and record label executive. My mom worked in the music industry as well. She stopped working there when she had me. And I was born into the industry. So it's all I've ever known. But when my parents split up, my dad stayed in the industry and life was very hard for my mum. And I always had one foot in the real world. So it was a world that I was in, but, I had an eye open. I wasn't oblivious to what was going on in that world.
Would you say that that's kind of shaped you and like ultimately driven you to sort of do what it is that you're doing now, which is essentially speak out against the very sort of system, I suppose you were involved in, essentially?
Yeah, so I grew up and I saw that life wasn't easy for my mum because my mum didn't have money, power, and influence. And my mum worked very hard And I had real issues from a young age, just seeing the hypocrisy of how if you're a one percenter, life is easy for you. The systems do not treat people that are within the 99% the same as they do if you're a one percenter. And it was just something I always felt strongly about. I'm neurodiverse, and I know everyone says, oh, everyone says that now, but I am. And I have I feel things very deeply. I feel things when it's good very strongly and when it's bad very strongly. And I always just felt it was really, really unfair. And so from a young age, that was how I saw the world. I would be at, you know, elites' houses. And I'm not talking about my late godfather, but, very high profile people's houses. I would see the big lawyers. I would see how that system worked when you were a powerful person that could pull in favors. And then I would go back and I would be with my mum, and my mum didn't have access to lawyers. She didn't have access to power. And she was on the back foot bringing me up because of that reason after the separation. So it was something that I always felt really strongly about. And it's absolutely shaped everything that I do, because I think when you look at what's going on now with the grooming gangs, or you look at what's happened with everything relating to Epstein, at the crux of all of this is all of these victims, they don't have money, they don't have power, and they don't have influence. And we have seen institutions, and we have seen blue blood, and we have seen people of power weaponize the very framework that is meant to be fair and just for all of us, and it's not. And that is where my blood boils.
Was there something in particular, because you left that world because you worked, like you say, you worked in PR yourself. Was there a specific moment where you thought, I can't do this anymore, or were there like a string of events that sort of led up to it?
So I'd been unhappy in it for a long time. I would often be asked, I had a PR agency. I set up two PR agencies. One was a celebrity PR agency, and the other was a PR agency that was focused on experts with expertise. But I couldn't do it anymore. You are constantly on the celebrity side. You're picking up the pieces of disaster, or you are creating a facade that isn't real. And I yearned for more. I wanted to not be involved in something that I felt was deeply corrupt. And I wanted to be a role model for my children. And I didn't want to be part of this system, which ultimately, the mainstream media thrives on weaponizing money, power, and influence. I mean, Richard, how I lasted so long in PR, I have no idea. And how I did so well, because I was successful. I did do very well. I was very good at what I did. But morally and ethically, it never sat with me. But then you're in this machine where you get more power and you get more money, and it's a very hard industry to come out of, because you become groomed in a way, and people don't talk out about the system. And it got to the point where I said to my husband, I cannot do this anymore. And I think a real turning point has been the Epstein, for me, situation, the way that I saw people weaponizing their power to slander people like Virginia Giuffre. I saw my mum in that, my mum, and I don't want to break confidentiality because my mum might not want all of this out there, but my mum has been in a position before where in many ways I felt I saw parallels. And so I just didn't want to be part of that. And I said to my husband, I can't do it anymore. And he said, let's just come out of it. And at that point, I thought I'd rather do nothing than do that. And I decided at that point I was going to set up an events company, and it was absolutely ludicrous. Basically, I went to Home Bargains and just spent loads of money on craft stuff, and came home and my husband's like, have you got a business plan? I was like, no, but I've got all of this stuff. And the events company was awful. I decided I didn't want to host events for other people's children. It was just loads of children going, no. So I just said, right, well, I said my prayers and I said, God, I do not know what I can do. I know I can't continue with doing something that morally and ethically is not in line with who I am and what I am. I want to be a role model for my children. And out of nowhere, I I was just calling out corruption on Instagram, and I'd call my mum and I'd say, Mum, put out a post. Can you like it? And I'd call my husband, no, darling, can you like my post? I was just getting a bit gobby. And then I went on to Dan Wootton's show and I did an episode about how the palace had been setting up pap shots and lying to people. And then I got a show on the Sean Atwood channel. And I don't even think it's been a year. It's been absolutely nuts. But I was calling this out to very, very few people because I never realized you can go on YouTube. Sean Atwood said, set your own YouTube up. I said, why? I can stream off yours. He said, just set one up, Lauren. And then, yeah, the rest is history. It's all a bit nuts. People said, oh, I'm not sure about her. She's a spy. She's come out of nowhere. I said, look, no one is more surprised than me. I'm absolutely flabbergasted that this has happened.
It's nuts, isn't it? Because like, if you don't do very well, you're mocked. But if you do well, it's like, oh, you're establishment, or you're Israel, or you're a spy, or it's you can't win, can you? Was there? I mean, I know I've already asked you if there was a specific turning point. I think many of us, yourself, me, we don't really fully understand why we feel this kind of pull. We're kind of drawn to
Mm,
speaking out, and I'm exactly the same as you in that I just started getting a bit gobby. I just decided, right, that's it. I'm going to say something, and I
yeah.
and I started, and that was it. Um, was there a specific thing, or what was the worst thing you saw? Can you tell me the worst thing you saw during your time in PR or being involved in that world?
I mean, look, the corruption runs deep. You are constantly denying stories that are true. You are lying constantly. You are firefighting. And it is such a stressful job. Anyone that thinks PR is champagne and parties, that's not what proper PR is. Proper PR is 20-hour days. You are gatekeeping, you are controlling the narrative, you are managing countless journalists to ensure they are on your side running the narrative that you want, and then add into the mix 10 celebrities that you don't know how they're going to behave, what they're doing. And then when you find out what they're doing, you think, okay, well, has the paper got this picture? Have they got this story? It's such a stressful job. And in terms of, the pull to the right, I always say it's kind of the pull towards a moral compass. And I frequently talk about Tommy Robinson. People say, oh, is she a Tommy Robinson mouthpiece? It's like, no, Tommy Robinson is the best litmus test. Having been in the mainstream media, I know exactly how that system works. And so I predict the headlines before Unite the Kingdom. I constantly can tell people what's coming up because I've been in the rooms. I know what's happening and what's going to happen in terms of that kind of thing. And I feel that sits really badly with me, the press being used to weaponize as a weapon really against people, because many people believe the mainstream media, and that is petrifying.
So the mainstream media. So obviously we've got UTK coming up. You're going, I'm going. Both really looking forward to it. They will now already have a plan in place to kind of strip that down, try and tear it apart,
Mhm.
and turn it and turn it into something that essentially it isn't, because that's what happened last year, wasn't it? And it didn't seem reactionary. It kind of seemed like they already had these stories already kind of lined up. There's a protest that happens every single year, and it's to celebrate Black Pride. I can't remember what it's called. You might be able to help me out. If not, it's fine. I'll drop it in after this. Um, but I think that they had something like 240 arrests for like
Mm.
possessions of knives, drugs, loads of different things last year. And but at the Tommy Robinson March, the UTK, I think there were 14 arrests, and 11 of those were
Yeah.
were on the left. But to read the magazines, the newspapers, even the news, it was on TV. They acted like it was a hate march. Do you know what I mean? And you've said it yourself, and I've said exactly the same thing. I felt completely safe that day. I'm a
Yeah.
very anxious person. I don't like crowds. That day the atmosphere was insane, and everyone
Yeah.
was just. You kind of get this feeling of we're all on the same side. Like it's going to be okay. Do you know what I mean? And it's so nice to see that many people turn up for not for a hatred of anyone, but for a love of our
Yeah.
country.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, I interviewed Muslims. I interviewed asylum seekers that were there because they wanted to defend the UK and Western, morals and values, and they didn't want the Islamist takeover. It was amazing meeting people from so many different parts of the world, and also so many people that ordinarily I probably wouldn't cross paths with. I felt totally safe. I knew the narrative was written before it happened, and I knew that it would be that aggressive patriots. It would be, white thugs almost. They want to paint this movement like it's kind of bare knuckled white men staggering out of a pub angry. I mean, that's absolutely ludicrous. I don't think I saw one person like that. But the problem is, if you give Tommy Robinson credit, if the mainstream media give him credit, then they're endorsing the truth, and they won't endorse the truth because the mainstream media is controlled very largely by the government. Before our news goes to press, there is a whole kind of washing system. So let's say I'm a journalist, I'm writing an article about a unvetted migrant raping a 12-year-old child in Essex. I have to send that to the legal department on my floor in the newspaper. They have to check that with, the government bodies or the police to check that that's accurate, what can go in. The kind of key information is being completely removed by DSMA notices. So a D notice is whereby it's a voluntary order the government or the police can send. But it's not really voluntary, is it? Because let's say a newspaper runs the actual truth and the government have asked that comes out due to national security. If there's riots or if things implode, that newspaper is then held accountable. That's your fault. You've caused this. So that then makes it incredibly difficult for that newspaper. They could then be taken to IPSO, which is the governing body for the mainstream media. So we're just not getting the truth. But the narrative that will come out of the next Unite the Kingdom, I truly believe that the establishment will place very aggressive plants and disperse them in amongst the crowd to create the narrative they want. Because this is a problem now. You've got millions of people marching peacefully and within, it's our democratic right to march, but it's not slowing down. So they've tried to shame people. They've tried to bully people to feel shame for holding up the flag because, oh, this flag, this means you're a racist. This means that. No, it's the flag to me, and I think it's so subjective. This is why it's just criminal what the government are doing. The flag to me means pride in my country. And the flag to me means using my voice and my platform to move things forwards. How are we going to ensure that British children are not raped, are not failed, are not abused by predominantly Pakistani grooming gangs? But to me, this flag also means standing up for those children that are failed in care homes. For me, this flag means that I want to preserve Christian values in a constitutionally Christian country. It doesn't mean I don't want people of other faiths, of other backgrounds. I don't want to live in a white Christian society with no one else. Like the media and Starmer don't get to tell me what I think, but I want a country whereby we're not shamed for holding up our flag. I want the borders closed. I do not want them. Immigration must stop immediately. And if I'm being honest, I think I often wonder, is it too late? The Home Office has been hijacked. We've got the police that has heavily been infiltrated. We've got government, we've got local councils that have been heavily infiltrated. And, I'm not a political expert. Richard, you are so savvy and well versed in politics. Ultimately, no, you are, but I'm
I try.
a
It's
mum
so hard
that's
to keep up
worried.
with. It's so hard to keep up with. Yeah, well, that was going to be my next question. Obviously, so we're both parents. In fact, I'll go back to the UTK thing. Let's just round off on that, because there was a post that I can never remember her name. Is it Narinda Kaur?
Oh, God.
I think it's Narinda Kaur. She called UTK a racist hate march. Now, this was then different news outlets pushed it out. Oh yeah, it's a racist hate march. And I don't understand how they can. I mean, first of all, like it's just not working anymore. That's the first thing. Calling us racists doesn't work anymore. Like people. It used to be the case where people were so scared of being called a racist. Oh my god, if I get called it, that's like the worst thing ever. Whereas now they've done themselves. They've shot themselves in the foot, really, because it's so overused now that it doesn't mean anything anymore. But I thought, well, how can it be racist? Because when I was there last year, there were white people, there were brown people, black people, there were people there were Chinese. There was a Chinese family there. I remember we kind of got kettled onto the bridge, and the police blocked us off from behind, blocked us off from the front, and then they wouldn't let us get, as we came off the bridge, they wouldn't let us go sideways either, and they were just manhandling people. And I remember looking, and there was just a Chinese family on my right, and they were stood there like waving the Union Jack, and I just thought, this is mint. Like, there's people from all over who are here
Yeah.
to support this, and then you get absolute muppets like Narinda Kaur thinking, well, if I
Oh.
just call them racist, that'll do the job, and it just doesn't anymore. I think
I'll never
I
forgive
think people.
Channel 4 for putting her on Big Brother. That is something the world never needed. We
Oh,
never
is she on Big
needed.
Brother?
She was on Big Brother. She's utterly pointless. She's totally irrelevant. But the problem is she's not intelligent. So she just keeps coming back to, you've got a flag, you're racist. What are you on about, Poppet? Wind your beak in, go and meet some of the people who have had their lives destroyed by the grooming gangs. And I've met some of these people, and it's utterly heartbreaking. And if I see one more pointless celebrity try and promote the rights of people that are on the other side of the world, I don't care. I can't care when we are failing our children in this country on such a gross or a grotesque scale. Children have been, and this is what Narinda Kaur has no idea. Narinda Kaur doesn't know about the 11-year-old that was trafficked from her school by her teacher, gang raped, okay? At times, the police, according to testimonies, were raping these children and then driven back to school. She doesn't know about the children in care that got hooked onto heroin and were raped and groomed and then failed by the police. So Narinda Kaur, as
I
a
think she
mother,
does know. I think she does know. I just think she cares more about herself than she does about these victims, because you see a lot of these people on the left, they come out and they speak out and they say this, that, and the other. They all come across as so narcissistic. Like, I think she cares more about appeasing her, so-called fan base, who, let's be honest, they're all on the left side of the spectrum of politics. I think she cares more about just appeasing them and saying what she thinks they want to hear than she does about the actual victims of these crimes. How can she not know? How can she not know that this is going
I'm
on? I
going
think
to
she just
start
doesn't
calling
care.
them. I'm going to start calling them child abuse enablers. And I'm going to start calling them rape apologists, because you don't get to tell me when I hold the English flag what I am and what I'm not. And this is where I think on the right, people need to start flipping it back, because fundamentally, I don't think I've ever met anyone from doing all the work I've done within the right that doesn't say no one I've met is far right. I find that whole kind of, there were these two girls called the Sidley twins. I call them the twiddly twats. and they called me a white supremacist. They called me Eva Braun, Hitler's wife. They hurled so much abuse and were so ill-informed about Tommy and the rally and this and that. It makes me furious that everyone's rage, why is it so selective? Why is the rage not starting with the basic thing of like these children have been failed? I don't get why more people, and I'm not talking obviously the right, we're awake and we know what's going on, but it gets to the point where I've had friends cut me out. I think, good, I don't want to be your friend because you are a rape enabler. If you are not standing up about this, I had a friend, I don't know much about the grooming gangs. Well, then shame on you. Shame on you.
Yeah. First of all, yeah, why we call them grooming gangs? They're rape gangs. But secondly,
Yeah.
everybody has heard, everybody in this country has heard that it's going on. And the amount of people, you'll get it yourself, you speak to them and, oh, I don't really, I've not really looked into it. It's like, why? Why have you not looked into it? It's not, I think, for me, I was I lived in a bit of a bubble. So I was in the army for 8 years. And then when I left, I went to work and all the rest of it. And then it was probably about 2 years ago, I started looking into things and I became a bit of a conspiracy theorist. I was the guy sat at the table with the family saying they're spraying the skies, they're spraying the skies, and you need to look into MK Ultra, and it's the CIA, and I know who shot Kennedy, and they
I
looked at me
could
like,
talk about MK Ultra. I am utterly obsessed.
oh yeah, we'll have to
Yeah.
do an episode on MK Ultra. We need to go down that little rabbit hole. Yeah, I was kind of the conspiracy theorist of the family, but I think bit by bit, as I was speaking to my family, they started to look into it themselves, and now they're all, well, my immediate family anyway. Most of them are on board. They know it's happening. So I don't understand why people nationwide aren't outraged by this. I worry every single day about my son's future. My wife's pregnant. We've got a second one on the way. So my children's future,
Oh,
all of
when's
our
she
children's
due?
futures. August. So
Oh,
yeah, it's gonna be. We've got a 2-year-old boy and we've got another boy on the way. So we're trying to think of names at the minute.
So
Yeah,
my daughter was born, my eldest was born at the end of August. I spent that summer just in a paddling pool eating ice lollies. And the age gap we had was 2 years, 2 months between the kids.
yeah, that's probably gonna be. Yeah, oh no, he's gonna be 3 and 2 months. Yeah, so it's gonna be a loud house for a little while. So,
Good
but I
luck.
worry. Thank you. I worry about our kids' futures. You're a parent, so do you worry? Not, I'm not going to ask if you worry about their future, because of course you do. Do you worry that speaking out the way you do could have potential consequences to you and your family?
I mean, this is my problem. I don't really play it forwards. There was never a plan. I'm just me, and I developed a documentary idea, okay, and it was a documentary that needs to be made. My husband didn't want me to make it, and it's getting to the point where I'm thinking, I don't know if I could make it and actually still keep safe if I did that. I've thought, oh, well, I've probably blown it up that my kids will never make the honors list, or, might run into some trouble. But then I think, well, you know what? I'm raising strong, brave, resilient girls who will become women. And my mum has always said to me, you've got a voice, use it. And so I guess it would depend, will it impact them? Well, I don't think I'm raising children to go with the flow. I don't think I'm raising daughters that will end up, working in a corporation whereby they would fall in line. I mean, my children are nuts, Richard. They, if you think I'm feisty, crikey, they are. They are outspoken, feisty, and they know what they want. They're very
Good.
kind. Yeah, they're very kind. I see the kindness in my daughters, and they've got empathy and compassion. And I think, well, you know what? I think you'll know mummy was doing the right thing. And look, I report, I do commentary, but crikey, I'm not I'm not doing what the likes of AY Audits are doing. He's on the ground day in, day out. You see what some people are doing. But I would push it further if I didn't have children. I do sometimes rein myself in terms of, documentaries is something I've been working on, and things where I would absolutely go undercover to Calais. Really, really wanted to do it. Was developing an idea with someone, and he said, the problem is there's 20 men of fighting age, and they have knives and sometimes guns. And I thought, even by my standards, and I'm gutsy, I thought that is really silly to do that. If I didn't have children, I'd be doing way more. But you have to, tread that line of balance.
When I first started, we got evicted from our house. When I say started, I mean my activism, not the podcast. When I started my activism last year, we got evicted. My address got doxed. So we had to move house again. It was I lost my job. There was so much happened at one time, and it does kind of make you think, whoa, what's going on here? And I think I wouldn't say I lost my edge, but I definitely, similar to you, I just went into this bit like a bull in a china shop, and then it kind of catches up with you down the line, doesn't it? You think, I say one wrong thing, and that could be it. I mean, you look at the things that we just mentioned it on your live stream before we came on this show. Katie Hopkins called herself a spaz, and she was carted off to for an interview with the police. Like, it's nuts. It's nuts. Do you think we can vote our way out of this?
I feel really conflicted with this because I always like to have hope, and I really am excited by everything that Rupert Lowe's doing, and I'm a big supporter of Ben Habib as well. The issue we've got is how deep this goes in terms of the Islamic ideology that is so heavily politicized, and it's going to take something drastic to go back on what has happened, because it's bad. I speak to people day in, day out, and these are not people from one particular area or one type of job. It's a mixture of, having I think I've probably got around 300,000 insiders following me. I get lots of messages from people telling me what's going on in their communities. But then I also interview people like Di Davies, the former head of Royal Protection, or Dr. Gavin Ashenden. And it's so many different people that, Dr. Gavin Ashenden told me the future is segregation. He said, we will become South Africa. And then I have moments where I think, should we move to America, or should we move to Poland? And then I think, I love England. I love my life. I love where we live. I love everything that is my home. I don't want to move.
Yeah, it's exactly the same as you. It's so difficult. I've spoken to my wife, and I see countries like Hungary and Poland, and they're much tougher on immigration. They seem to have those sort of old-fashioned morals still in place. You go there, it's really clean and tidy. The people are really polite, and they don't have the problems with immigration. As one example, I know we've got way more problems than that. It's not just immigration. We've got loads of problems. I mean, digital IDs upon us. I know a lot of people say, I won't comply. It's like, you already are. You sign the terms and conditions to use Facebook. Like, it's in every single terms and conditions that you sign. Like, digital ID is already here. You look at the net zero madness. 55% of our energy bills are essentially green taxes. They're just broken down into lots of different. So, if you pay £100 worth of electricity, £55 of that is taxes to go towards, net zero and all the rest of it. We've got so many issues here in the UK right now. I think we're going to have no choice. If we want to do this peacefully, we kind of need to match up. And it's why I'm so drawn to Restore. It's why I'm a branch organizer for them. They seem to be kind of marrying up politics with activism. And Rupert Lowe said himself, politics should be professional activism. So for me,
Yeah.
it's it's restore. That's just me. That's what I'm set on. But the same as you, if I see something, I'll call it out if I disagree with something. Of course I will.
Yeah.
But I think we need to come to terms with the fact that whatever happens now going forward, we've probably got 10 years maybe of real tough times here in the UK. And I'm the same as you. There comes a time quite often through the day where I think, is it easier to just up sticks and move? But then I can't bring myself to do it. I love this country. I love our people. And I love what Britain used to be.
Mm.
Do you
I
think
went to the
people are
Isle
waking
of
up?
Wight. I went to the Isle of
Mhm.
Wight recently. I love the Isle of Wight. And, I've traveled around the world. Nowhere is like the Isle of Wight. And it is just so magical. We went and it was just like stepping back in time. We went to this Black Gang Chine. It's like an old theme park kind of thing. And it's so un-PC. But they're selling these toy guns for kids, and they've got these poppers, and you throw them on the floor and it goes bang, bang, bang. And you look, I didn't buy my daughter a toy gun. I'm very strict. I'm a strict mum. But I also loved the fact that I love the fact they're not complying with this woke nonsense that's ripped through society. It's just so funny. And, when we were there, we were having fish and chips on the beach and collecting shells. And it was just, I'll be really honest, it was lovely not seeing a full burqa. I see them all the time now, and for me, I have real safety concerns that puts my children's safety at risk, and I would say the same if it was a man walking around in any kind of garment covering their face. This
Mm.
is what I'm seeing more and more, and it's really worrying, and I don't understand why we can't question that. It's not, you know, it's not in the Quran. And then you get the likes, like you mentioned, of Narinder Kaur saying, "You're racist." Like, wind your beak in. You don't know what you're talking about. And actually,
Mm.
I think the headscarf, I think it's beautiful. I think it's a lovely. I understand why, the headscarf that shows the face. I get that. I'm not here to police how people do or don't display their religion. The headscarf to me is no different to wearing a cross. But the full burqa I have a huge issue with, because it was someone in a full burqa that was one of the terrorists on or when 7/7 happened. Evidently, that's since been scrubbed from the internet. Try finding that there. It's not there
Mm.
anymore. But I really stand against the full burqa. I don't agree with it at all.
It's insane, isn't it? Because the same, and I try and get past this whole like left and right sort of analogy, but to me it's the best way to kind of describe them. And everyone knows what we're on about. But I find it so insane that these lefty liberal types who want equality and women should be treated with respect and are also saying that it's wrong to ban something that is used to what's the word the burqa itself is used to kind of suppress women. That was its purpose, and that is its purpose. So I find it so strange that these people who want equality, they want women to have equal rights and all the rest of it, are also kind of demonizing us for saying that the burqa shouldn't really be a thing, especially in the UK. Like if they want to go and wear it in their own countries, fine. But here, I'm fully behind banning the burqa. It should be gone. It's a security issue. And yeah, I'm the same as you. I see it. I'll be brutally honest. It makes me uncomfortable. I don't know who's behind that.
Yeah.
We live in a society. We've grown up in a society where we like to see people's faces, and it's not racist to say that at all. Do you think people are waking up to this now quickly enough, or do you think we've still got a long, hard slog ahead of us?
I think people are waking up very quickly. I think the concern I have is that obviously there's the mainstream censorship of Rupert Lowe. And the problem there is they still have a solid audience, the mainstream media. That is a fact. Yes, it's absolute propaganda puff they put out, but Rupert Lowe needs to reach many, many more people. But the good thing about Restore is it's very grassroots. You know, I've got friends that are on missions to just get people over to Restore, or some people with Advance as well. And I think that's great. I think whatever happens, the movement will just continue to get bigger. And I think it's, you know, what I think growing up, you see the Jewish community, they always look out for each other. They've been through so much that it's kind of like an unwritten rule that a Jewish person looks out for a Jewish person. And I think that's lovely. And whilst I'm not, you know, saying that people on the right are like the Jewish community or have been through anything like them, there is that affinity between people that are awake and on the right that I think you see within the Jewish community as well. It's that kind of like, we're a team, we'll look after each other. And so that's what I think is something that people can take hope, you know, in that. But I think people have to keep speaking up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't say it better myself. Lauren, I would like to thank you so much for coming on the
Thank
show.
you for
Again, I'm
having
still
me.
fangirling that I've got
Oh,
Lauren,
stop.
the insider, on my show. No, listen, let me enjoy my fangirl moment. Yes, thank you so much. Where can people find you? I mean, you're very well known. I imagine most people
Oh.
know where to find you. But for anyone who doesn't, where can we find you?
I mean, I find this nuts. I was in the supermarket recently and someone went, "Hi, are you Lauren?" And I thought, did I go to school with them? I'm not sure. Yeah. Who are you? And then it was that awkward thing of we were just chatting and I thought, I don't know who you are. And then they said, "Oh, I watch your YouTube." I was like, okay, phew, I didn't like forget someone's name. So I am on YouTube, Lauren the Insider. I'm on Instagram, Lauren the Insider, and on X, just because X had to be really difficult, I'm Insider Lauren.
Oh, we'll have to try and sort that out, won't we?
I know. Cool, Elon.
Once more, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Lauren. Bye-bye.